In London's most luxurious music shop, when a 12-year-old boy picked up an £85,000 vintage Gibson Les Paul, the security guard immediately sprang into action. But an elderly man browsing in the corner of the store watched this scene unfold, and something stirred inside him. That man was Ozzy Osbourne, and what he would do in the next 20 minutes would change this child's life forever. Because sometimes, life's most beautiful stories are born in the middle of a misunderstanding. Heritage Music House had been serving London's Mayfair district since 1923. The interior of the Victorian-era building was like a museum, with wooden panels and crystal chandeliers. On the walls hung legends of rock history, from a Stratocaster used by Jimi Hendrix to an acoustic guitar signed by Eric Clapton. Every corner carried a story. Every instrument bore a legend. The shop's owner, Marcus Pemberton, a 68-year-old gentleman, ran this business inherited from his father and grandfather with passion. His clientele included world-famous musicians, wealthy collectors, and sometimes just ordinary music enthusiasts who came to admire. That Tuesday afternoon, the shop had its usual peaceful atmosphere. Marcus sat behind the counter, taking notes about the restoration of a 1959 Gretsch. Trevor, the security guard and former police officer in his mid-40s, was carefully observing the customers. At that moment, the door opened, and in walked Ozzy Osbourne. Yes, that Ozzy Osbourne, the legendary vocalist of Black Sabbath, the living symbol of heavy metal. In his black jeans, worn leather jacket, and those iconic round glasses, even at 70 years old, he was still the living embodiment of rock and roll. When Marcus looked up, he immediately recognized that familiar face. "My God, Ozzy Osbourne," he thought to himself, but tried to maintain his professional composure. Ozzy walked in with relaxed steps and raised one hand, giving Marcus a polite wave. "Hello, mate," he said in that familiar Birmingham accent. "I was passing by, saw the window display, thought I'd take a look. I don't play instruments myself, but I love looking at them." Just then his phone rang. Sharon was calling. Ozzy answered. "Yes, love." Sharon's voice came through from the other end. "Ozzy, where are you?" Ozzy looked around. "I'm in a music shop." Sharon jumped in immediately. "Perfect. Our granddaughter wants to learn piano. While you're there, could you look at pianos for her?" Ozzy sighed. "All right, Sharon." He hung up and turned to Marcus. "Looks like I'll be looking at pianos." Marcus smiled and stood up, walking toward Ozzy. They were just about to shake hands when a shout came from the back of the shop. "Hey, what are you doing?" Trevor's voice echoed through the store. Everyone's heads immediately turned in that direction. Trevor, in the vintage guitars section, had grabbed a small boy by the arm. The child was about 12 years old, dark-skinned, with black curly hair. He wore torn jeans and a faded t-shirt, but most importantly, in his hands was a 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard, one of the shop's most valuable pieces, with an £85,000 price tag. Trevor pulled the child roughly toward him. "How dare you touch this guitar? Did you see the price?" he shouted. The boy's face had gone white as a sheet, pure fear in his eyes. I was just looking," he stammered. His voice was trembling and his eyes welled up. Trevor took the guitar from the child's hands and carefully hung it back in place, then shot the boy a harsh look. "Looking, were you? What are you even doing here in the first place? This shop isn't for kids like you to wander around in. Out, now!" Marcus quickly emerged from behind the counter and approached to intervene. But Ozzy acted first. He walked towards the child and spoke to security guard Trevor, politely but firmly. "Hold on a minute, mate. Let's not rush." Maybe the boy has an explanation. Trevor recognized Ozzy and softened slightly, but was still in defensive mode. "Mr. Osbourne, this child was wandering around without permission and touched one of our most expensive guitars. Unfortunately, protocol requires—" Ozzy raised his hand, stopping Trevor. "I understand, mate, but let's hear the boy out first. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding." Then he turned to the child, bending slightly to bring his eyes to the boy's level. "What's your name, son?" The boy first looked at Ozzy, then at the floor. His voice was still trembling. I'm Sean, sir." Ozzy smiled, with that warm, fatherly smile. "Sean, lovely name. Now tell me, why were you touching that guitar? Were you trying to steal it?" Sean raised his head. His eyes locked onto Ozzy's. Something inside him broke, and he began to speak. My dad. My dad was a guitarist. He had a Les Paul, just like this one. He'd play it every night at home. When I was little, I'd watch him and dream that one day I could play just like him. A tear rolled down his cheek. But my dad died 2 years ago. Heart attack. We had to sell his guitar because my mum couldn't pay the hospital bills. Since that day, I haven't seen my dad's guitar. Today I was passing by here and saw that Les Paul in the window, just like my dad's. I just wanted to touch it one more time, to remember him. Silence fell over the shop. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Trevor's stern expression disappeared, and he took a step back. Ozzy gently touched the boy's shoulder. Sean, he said in a calm voice, what you did took real courage. Coming here to remember your father, to touch it, that's the purest form of love. Music isn't just about notes, you know that, don't you? Music is where our memories live. Every night your dad played that guitar, he was really saying to you, I'm here, I'm with you. And now you can still hear that message. That's something very special. Sean looked at Ozzy, this time with a bit of hope in his eyes. Are you really Ozzy Osbourne? My dad loved you. He always listened to Black Sabbath. Ozzy smiled. Yeah, that's me, son. And now I'm going to tell you something. I don't know how to play guitar, never learned. I'm just the vocalist. But we could try something. Then he turned to Marcus. Marcus, mate, can we play this guitar? Just once for this boy. Marcus hesitated for a moment. That guitar was very valuable, but his humanity won out. Of course, Mr. Osbourne. But let's be careful. This guitar is 65 years old and very fragile. Trevor carefully took the guitar down from the wall and handed it to Ozzy. Ozzy took the guitar and gave it to Sean. Here you go, son. Send your dad a greeting. When Sean held the guitar, it was as if he'd traveled back years in time. His hands settled on the strings with practiced familiarity. He closed his eyes and played the first chord. The sound spread to every corner of the shop. Warm, deep, nostalgic. Then Sean began playing a simple but emotional melody. This wasn't a professional performance, but it came from the heart. Marcus stood behind the counter watching, his eyes wet with tears. Trevor was no longer the stern security guard, and Ozzy, watching the boy, remembered his own past, a kid on the streets of Birmingham with nothing but dreams of music. When Sean finished the melody, applause echoed through the shop. Not just Ozzy, Marcus, and Trevor, but several other customers who had entered were also clapping. Sean gently handed the guitar back to Marcus. Thank you, he said quietly. Ozzy touched the boy's shoulder again. Sean, I have a question for you. Would you like to keep learning to play guitar? Sean's eyes widened. Of course I would, but my mum can't afford lessons. We're struggling. Ozzy nodded. I understand. But what if I made you an offer? Sean's heart began to race. What kind of offer? Ozzy turned to Marcus and winked. Then he looked at Sean. Now listen to me, son. Even though I don't know how to play guitar, some people claim I'm a musician. But when I was a kid, I had nothing. Music saved me. Now I'm going to do 3 things for you. Sean held his breath. First, Ozzy continued, I'm going to find you a guitar teacher. One of the best guitarist friends I know will give you lessons twice a week, free of charge. Sean's mouth fell open. Second, Ozzy went on, I'm going to buy you a guitar worthy of your father's memory. Sean's eyes filled again, but this time with tears of joy. Third, Ozzy added with a smile, one day, when you're good enough, I'm going to bring you up on stage with me. You'll play in front of thousands of people. Your father's spirit will watch you and be proud. Sean couldn't hold back and hugged Ozzy. He was crying, but from happiness. Thank you, thank you, thank you, he kept repeating. Ozzy held the boy tight. You're welcome, son. At that moment, the shop door opened again, and a middle-aged woman entered. She was wearing cleaning workers' clothes and looked tired. Sean, what are you doing here? I've been looking everywhere for you, she called out anxiously. Sean ran to his mother. Mum, Ozzy Osbourne is going to give me guitar lessons. The woman looked at Ozzy in astonishment. Are you really Ozzy Osbourne? Ozzy smiled. Yes, Mum. Your son is very talented, and I want to help him. The woman's eyes filled with tears as she approached Ozzy. Mr. Osbourne, I don't know what to say. After I lost my husband, life became so hard. Sean's father was his hero, and music was their bond. I couldn't buy my son a guitar. I felt so guilty for depriving him of that." Her voice broke. "You're like an angel." Ozzy placed his hand on the woman's shoulder. "Ma'am, I'm no angel. In fact, most people say quite the opposite. But someone gave me a chance once. Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward. Without them, I wouldn't be here either. Now it's Sean's turn." Ozzy turned to Marcus. "Marcus, mate, do you have a good starter guitar here for Sean? Something quality but not too expensive." Marcus thought for a moment. "We do, Mr. Osbourne. We have a Fender Stratocaster, £1,200, perfect for a beginner." Ozzy nodded. "Brilliant. I'll take that guitar. And also—" He paused, then smiled. "I'm taking that Les Paul too." Marcus was shocked. "But Mr. Osbourne, that guitar is £85,000. Ozzy shrugged. "I know. But this guitar will be a monument to Sean's father. When Sean is ready to play it one day, I'll give it to him. Until then, you'll keep it safe. One day, he'll come here and collect it." Marcus nodded, his eyes welling up. "That's an incredible gesture." Trevor approached Sean and extended his hand. "Young man, I'm sorry for treating you so harshly. I was just doing my job, but I should have spoken to you with more humanity." Sean shook Trevor's hand. "It's okay. You were right, too. I shouldn't have touched that guitar without permission." Ozzy pulled out his wallet and handed his credit card to Marcus. "Right then, mate. Let's sort this out. Then I need to get back to looking at pianos for my granddaughter. If I go home empty-handed, Sharon will kill me." This made everyone laugh, and the tense atmosphere completely dissolved. Ozzy kept his word. The following week, he introduced Sean to James Carpenter, one of London's best guitar teachers. James was in his 60s, a calm but passionate man who had worked with professional musicians for years. After listening to Sean in the first lesson, he turned to Ozzy and said, "This boy has something special. I can teach him technique, but no one can teach the fire that's already inside him." Sean took lessons twice a week and grew more confident each time. His mother watched as her son practiced for hours every evening with that Fender Stratocaster, sometimes getting frustrated when he made mistakes, but never giving up. At the end of the third month, James called Ozzy one day. "Ozzy, this boy has started writing his own compositions, and believe me, they're worth listening to." Ozzy made Sean an offer. "Let's organize a small concert at Heritage Music House. Your friends, your family, customers. Your first real performance." Sean was scared at first, but then he thought of his father. His father always used to say, "Fear doesn't kill courage, Sean, it shapes it." 6 months later, Ozzy arranged a small concert at Heritage Music House. When Sean stepped onto the stage, he had his Fender Stratocaster in hand. There were about 50 people in the shop. His mother sat in the front row, watching her son with pride. Marcus and Trevor were there, too. And of course, Ozzy Osbourne. Sean came up to the microphone and spoke with a shy smile. "Hello, I'm Sean. Today I'm going to play 2 songs for you. The first is one of my dad's favorite songs, Iron Man by Black Sabbath. The second is a melody I wrote myself. It's called For My Father." Applause broke out. Sean began on his guitar and played that legendary Iron Man riff. His sound was clean, powerful, and emotional. Ozzy stood in the back, smiling. Because the scared, lost child he'd seen in that shop corner 6 months ago was gone. Standing there now was a young musician writing his own story. But there was something different about Sean's performance. It wasn't technical perfection. The boy skipped a few notes, even missed the rhythm in one spot. But nobody cared. Because what Sean was playing wasn't just a song, it was a letter written to his father, voiced through the guitar. Trevor stood with his hands in his pockets, gently nodding his head. His heart ached every time he thought about how 6 months ago he'd wanted to grab this boy by the arm and throw him out. When Sean finished Iron Man, the shop erupted with applause. He leaned into the microphone and spoke with a shy but determined voice. "Thank you. Now I'm going to play the second song. This is the first time I'm playing this song anywhere." He looked at his mother, whose eyes were filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Mum, this is for you and Dad." Sean changed how he held his guitar, taking a softer position. When he played the first note, The atmosphere in the shop changed. This was completely different from the hard, powerful world of Iron Man. The melody was slow, almost like a whisper. Ozzy realized something in that moment. Sean was a creator. He could take his own pain, his longing, his love, and transform it into music. Bloody hell, Ozzy muttered to himself. This kid's doing it better than I ever did. In the middle of the melody, Sean did something unexpected. He raised his head and closed his eyes. In that moment, it was as if the 50 people in the shop didn't exist, as if it was just him and his father. When the song ended, Sean's finger remained on the string, the sound slowly fading. Nobody moved. Nobody applauded. There was only silence. Then Sean opened his eyes and looked at his mother. The woman jumped from her seat and ran to the stage, hugging her son tightly. "Was Dad here, Mum?" Sean whispered. "He was there in every note, son. Every single note." At that moment, applause exploded. Standing ovation, shouts, whistles. Trevor wiped his eyes. "Marcus, I've worked here for 20 years. I've never seen anything like this." Ozzy walked slowly to the stage. He placed his hand on Sean's shoulder. "How was it?" the boy asked, his voice trembling. Ozzy took a deep breath. "Sean, I've been making music for 50 years, but today, here, that song you played, in 3 minutes, you did everything I've spent years trying to do. Never change that." At that moment, Marcus brought something from the counter, that 1959 Gibson Les Paul, but this time he'd added a small plaque to the guitar strap. "To Sean and his father Thomas, Ozzy Osbourne, 2019. Sean's breath caught. "This is mine. Now." Ozzy nodded. "Yeah, son. Because you're ready now. You proved that today." When Sean held the guitar, he lightly touched the strings and played a chord. The sound filled the shop, rich, deep, historical. Before people left, they spoke with Sean one by one, congratulating him. An elderly man approached Sean and whispered, "I lost my son too 10 years ago. Today, the song you played reminded me of him. Thank you." Sean understood in that moment that music wasn't just for himself, it was a bridge for others too. Before going home, Sean and his mother came to thank Ozzy one last time. His mother held Ozzy's hand. "Mr. Osbourne, you didn't just give my son a guitar. You gave him a new life." Ozzy squeezed the woman's hand. "I just opened a door. The rest was Sean's own work, his own talent, his own heart." Sean looked at Ozzy. "Will I have a real concert one day?" Ozzy stroked the boy's head. "Sean, you gave a real concert today. But yes, one day you'll be on big stages too, and when that day comes, I'll be sitting in the front row." That day, Sean was only trying to touch a guitar, but what he found was a future. Do you have a Sean in your life? Have you given someone a chance and changed their life? Share with us in the comments.